Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So, we've got Professor Malcolm. He's kind of the bad guy of our series that we're building this year. And last week I built a probe droid out of Nespresso pods, so be sure to check out that video. But this week, I want to take this little capsule and build some sort of delivery or messenger droid, almost like a mouse droid on Star Wars. And so I've got this little capsule. Let's see what we can do with it. Come on, let's do it. So originally I was going to use this chapstick container, but I think it's a little too small. And so I like this quarter machine capsule a little bit better. And the scale with all the other robots and Professor Malcolm, I think is going to work pretty nice. Just looking at the capsule, trying to understand what I want to do with this thing. I am going to pull it apart and I will glue it together halfway. So I get this kind of banding around the middle. I think it'll give it a cool canister type feel. And thank you for noticing my miraculous ladybug band-aid. A buddy of mine gave me this contraption of magnets, and I was trying to pull it apart, and it slammed and ripped my finger right open. And these are the only band-aids I got, so we'll have to get some more of those. I'm going to go ahead and sand off some of the markings and just give a good overall sanding. Kind of looking at the dome here and thinking through what I want to do, and I thought, you know what? I have these beads, and if I make a little camera lens similar to what I did with the probe droid, I think that'll give a cool effect, and it'll help tie the robots together in this world. So taking my reaming tool that David sent me, again, thank you. He did email me or text me and say, please tell me you did not cut your thumb on X-Acto blade with an X-Acto blade. And no, it was the magnets. But this reaming tool is awesome, and these eyes look really cool. I'll do a little bit of cleanup here. Again, doing a little bit of sanding will help you later on in the build. Paint will stick and it'll be a lot easier. Now I'm trying to build some sort of carriage to hold the wheels that will be glued onto the under portion of the body. And I did have some other square tubing that was a little bit larger, but it was almost too large. This will give me a little bit of problem because I can't drill a hole straight through for the axle of the wheels because it is a little too small, so I'll have to figure that out later. But the scale and the wheels, I think they look pretty great. What I'm doing here is I'm actually gluing this little carriage piece on one half so I can pull that thing apart later. I had these additional little laser etched pieces. I did sand them down so they're a little bit flatter. I'll show you how I did that on another piece in just a minute. Just kind of lining those up to see if I like that. Doing a little dab of glue here, take a bead, I'll drop that on. And this is going to act as like a little sensor. I can paint that red a little bit later. And now I'm drilling a little hole for an antenna. Somebody gave me these little bits of electronic pieces. Again, I don't even know what this is, but it makes a really cool antenna. So this thing can send and retrieve data back and forth. I really like that. All right, here's another little laser etched piece, and I'll show you what I was talking about a minute ago. It's pretty thick, and it's sticking out a little too far, so I'm just going to take it and run it on my sanding board there, and you can see it's a lot thinner. And then I'll just put a little tiny dab of glue. I did a little too much glue there, so I'm going to kind of smudge that around a little bit. I'll put it on there and align it up with the blade there, get it perfect, and then I'll do the same on the other side. I think that's going to add just a little extra effect. Taking some glue here, and I'm going to go ahead and glue down the number 22. And again, what I'm doing here is I just want to give a little bit of storytelling. It gives a little bit of dimension to the little robot, and I'll paint this out later and it'll really help it stand out. So when you're building, think about little extra things that you can add. I had this little headphone jack. If you were building something like this, it could be a pen cap. It could be all kinds of different things, but I think this thing looks pretty great. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a little hole through the side here. Now, every time you drill a hole, it is scary because I could ruin this capsule if I don't do it quite right. So I'm careful to mark where I want it to be, pulled it through, sanding this down just a little bit so it will help the glue adhere to it. And then I'll just kind of pull that string through, get it nice and tight, and then line this up and glue that on. And as I was painting, I didn't have really any problems. Everything stuck pretty well. So for the axles, I'm just taking this polystyrene tubing and I'm going to just force the wheel on there. It was actually a perfect fit. Again, my buddy had these wheels from another project that he made, so he just gave me these 4 wheels, which ended up being perfect. I am going to do some measurements so I can get all of the little axles the exact same size, since I am just gluing them onto the side of that little wooden undercarriage that I built. So I'll kind of align that up, get it how I want it to be. And then I did try to do maybe some like little space age cover, but it didn't really work. It was too tight of an area, so I went ahead and took that off. I have another plan for that here in a minute. So I put a little bit of super glue on there, glued this piece on, but then as I did this, I realized, it's really tight. They're too close together, and it's actually kind of hanging off. So I think I'm gonna have to redo this. Now, sometimes when you're doing a build, this is not fun to do, but sometimes it is the smartest and best thing to do. So I went ahead and just popped all that off. And then what I'm gonna do is just cut a new piece, and I made it a little bit longer, but I don't love how it's just straight across in the middle there. So I went ahead and I got my saw and I cut like a little groove in there, sanded that out, and it just gives a little bit of interest when you're looking at it from the side. I don't know if it's a little too much, but I think it's kind of nice. So I went ahead and glued that back on. Again, I'm gluing on the first half so I can take this thing apart and paint it later. And then after it's a matte finish, I'll be able to drop those gloss beads in. So here I am just lining up the wheels, getting them glued on. And then I had this little metal brass thing. And again, just by chance, they fit perfectly in the polystyrene tubing. So I think that's going to be a pretty cool little effect for the hubcap of this wheel. I also added a little piece of polystyrene tubing on the side as maybe like a rail or a bumper of some sort, just to add a little bit more dimension to the little droid because it was feeling a little flat. So glued those down. I like that. That's pretty cool. I need to prime this thing, but it's a little cold out, so I'm going to wait till tomorrow. And so for the time being, I'm going to build a little base or a little miniature diorama to put this thing on. I painted the top brown first. I'll paint the rim black, and then I'll do some glue and put some grass. The reason I painted the top brown is in the past, I've left it the wood color, and when I do the grass on top, the light wood shows through too much and it doesn't quite work. So I found that this brown base actually helps hide things. Added a little tuft of grass and some rocks. That looks pretty cool. All right, it's the next day and I primed everything, and priming is so much fun. It's really magical for a maker. After I primed it, I went ahead and sprayed it flat black. And then I'm going to start weathering this thing up just a little bit, taking a blade, doing some scratching on the metal portion, and just scratching down to the base of the metal. It's going to give a really cool effect, and it's pretty simple weathering. I am adding a nice little coat of white, so when I paint over the top of this with my color, I'm going to be using like a construction yellow. The black is too strong, and so the white will give a nice base for that yellow to look really nice and crisp. I'm painting up the antenna, this gunmetal metallic silver, and I'll take that same metallic silver and I'll do all of the hubcaps on the wheels. Gives it a nice mechanical feel. And then here's that first coat of the construction yellow on that white, and you can see it looks really nice. I'm going to paint the headphone area that nice yellow as well. I'm painting those little bumper rods there, and I'll paint even that little stem there silver. The little sensor in the front there, I'll paint that red. Now these white coats of paint have helped me lay down some really clean, crisp colors. So adding a little bit of a silver around that band, so when I put them together, I'm going to get a really nice kind of metal canister vibe, and then a little bit of dry brushing. And this is just going to help give a little bit of character as though the canister's been beat up a little bit. It's really cool to see the dry brushing hit the edge of this undercarriage here, and it just really pops the highlight there on the edge. So again, just take a little bit of paint, brush that off, taking a little bit of extra paint on a smaller brush and doing some chipping here. And I don't want to go too overboard, but I do want to give it a little bit of wear and tear. I did add this extra little component on this side of the bot because it was feeling a little bit flat. And then I just toned it down with some black paint. That's a nice little touch. I love doing some weathering, so I'm going to add a little bit of this Vallejo rust. And then glue the little lenses in, or the eyeballs. Taking some hot glue, did the first one, let it dry, lined up the second bead, glued that, let it dry, and This looks pretty cool. Here we go, turn around, moment of truth. And yeah, the matte against the gloss again. And I think this helps tie it into the probe droid. So, all right, I'm going to start gluing this thing all together and call this one a wrap. This was actually really fun. I think the scale and proportion fits Professor Malcolm really nice. And I think he's a cool little information droid that can transfer back and forth and maybe deliver data that he doesn't want to send over the internet. And it looks like a little pal. I kind of like it. So I feel like the good guys could have something like this as well. All right, so this was a pretty simple build. Just a little capsule, some headphone, little bits and pieces here. Nothing too complicated, but I think he turned out really cool as a little information droid. And so now Professor Malcolm can send him out to maybe deliver some secret plans. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I'm pleased with this. At first, I was kind of wondering, is it too cutesy? But I think it almost has this feel of like a little pet dog. I don't know why I think that, but let's do some turnaround shots of this, and then I'll put it with Professor Malcolm and with the probe droid, and we'll do another turnaround shot, and let me know what you think. As always, it's a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a good one. Ooh, real quick, I want to do a plug for our show Toy Rats. If you haven't seen it, it's me and my buddy. We just sit around and talk about toys. And this week, I got this sweet McDonald's transforming toy from Japan. It's super cool, and we actually take it out of the box and actually transform them, and it's really cool. I'll leave a link below. Later.